Hey guys, so today is December 16th, and it is not only a balance update day, but it is also a content day. So, this video is going to be longer than usual. I was going to break it down into two videos, but honestly, I'm just going to shove it all into one video. So, bear with me on that. But it'll start off with the balance changes, and then I'll go into all of the extra content that is being added into the game. So you'll see the bulk of the video in the first half, and then after that we'll go and talk about everything else and show different ones of these skins as we go. So to keep that in mind, let's get right into it. I'm gonna kind of skip past a lot of this. We do have the Toys 2 event that's here, so if you go into the game, click special events, you have this toy board very similar to the one that you had before. You click this, then you roll, say you get a 6, you move forward 6 spaces, and then quests will appear, and you'll be able to complete those quests, and those quests will give you further movement, further rolls, and then extra things to unlock. You can also get extra boxes from different quests, and then as you go through the board, you will be unlocking cosmetics for the first time you go through. For example, here you get a portrait and a spray, then you get a portrait and a spray, a portrait and a spray, a portrait and a spray, and then down here, when you complete your first time around, you will then get a bunch of emotes and a toy horse, which it appears to be a mount, but we've been tricked before, and then you get a chest. Then from every single time that you go around this board afterwards, you'll be able to unlock 1 to 2 extra of these chests. So the toy event tends to be one of the best events for getting a lot of content out quickly, because you're not just getting loot boxes for leveling heroes, you're not just getting loot boxes for completing quests, you're also getting loot boxes for just going laps around this, which is something that you're going to do just by default. You will get gold from normal daily quests, as well as you will get stuff from the extra quests from these. So if there is any time to play to unlock things that you want to unlock, it is during this time. But that being said, it is also a time with some of the most skins, so we'll go over that. There are special loot chests for this thing. Balance, so let's talk about balance a little bit. Gaining Unstoppable now prevents and removes blinds, which is pretty good. So now the only way to really turn off unstoppable heroes is damage reductions like Leoric. Experience globes, and as far as what this is going to do in the meta, this is pretty much just a big nerf to Diablo, or not Diablo, Deathwing, because a lot of people were just blinding him, so he didn't do auto attack damage, but he still was doing a ton of damage with just W's and E's. Experience globes. Heroes who kill minions with abilities or basic attacks will automatically collect the experience from minions. Now, this is meant to be used for a fix for Azmodan. This is meant to be a fix for those who have like those really long range abilities that were clearing up things, so you can still get experience from that. However, this is going to be a pretty major change to people like Vala, who can kill a minion, and a lot of times she's too low health and too long range to get that soak. I mean, she's not really that long range, but you know what I mean. And now it'll be a little bit harder to punish them if they're good at last hitting. So it kind of gives counterplay to the counterplay, it's been a heavily debated topic. Overall, I think it'll make it a little bit friendlier for ranged heroes, a little bit harder to punish ranged heroes. So it will shift the meta a little bit. Experience globes will no longer time out while traveling to a hero. This was infuriating, especially when I played Rhaegar and I'd drop down like a totem and a W, which would start melting everything, and then I would like go up to go grab a few, and then I would wolf form and start running away, and then they would time out as they were running away, or while they were like trying to move to me, and it was so infuriating. I just slowed down the whole game, it felt like. They will still expire if the hero moves out of range of the experience globe before it reaches them. That's fine. Removes a 0.5 second delay before experience globes can be collected. That's also really, really good. That's going to speed up the game again. It's going to make double soakers feel a little bit more natural, especially double soakers that were a little bit more ranged. There were a lot of times where I would tell people on Kael'thas to put a trait, a Q. I'd tell them to dismount before they even walk to the lane, do a trait, a Q, and then mount up before the Q even before any of that even blows up, and then run to the middle of the things because it takes so long for the experience globes to get there. Well, now this and this is going to make that feel a lot snappier. On to the collection. I'm actually going to go over all of this stuff at later point in this video, so you can always come back and watch, or at least skip to that if that's all you want to look at. Nubarok, he is getting an ult to, or a buff to Locust Swarm. Damage is being increased, healing is being increased. Honestly, this ult was already okay when Cocoon was really bad, but Cocoon is rarely bad, and then it made this ult not that great. Debilitating would reduce spell power. Now it's going to reduce spell power for a little bit longer. Beetle Juiced, additional functionality increases the health of beetles by 20%. Auto-attacking heroes. If this talent made it to where you could auto-attack anything to summon beetles, it would feel like a level 16 talent. Giving health is not making this feel like a level 16 talent. Beetles rarely die anyways outside of hitting turrets, and I would rather summon more beetles if I'm on turrets than I would anything else. So I don't like this, I mean, okay, it's not that I don't like this change, it's just that this change isn't going to be enough to change the meta. Ultimately, none of this will really change the meta of a Nubarok, but I wouldn't mind trying out Locust Swarm a little bit more. Chogall has had the lowest win rate, and in fact, I might even bring up Heroes Profile really quick, just so we can see the win rates of different heroes, because it's kind of fun to see when they do balance changes to see where they were first and where they are now. So if we looked at a Nubarok, 47% win rate, he gets a small buff to underutilized talents. We look at Chogall, 20... but that's only one game, so we can't count that. We have to do time frame. We have to do a longer time frame and ditch the current patch. Give me a minute, guys. Let's do filters. Okay, so we'll do that really quick. But yeah, so he had a really low win rate. I want to say it was 38% last time that I actually checked. There we go, 38%. And then we can check in a Nubarok. Yeah, 48%. So that's a little bit more reasonable. Light buffs to underutilized talents, but Chogall would probably need some huge buffs. Now, I actually want to do a video on the whole rework idea for Chogall, because I've had a lot of different ideas. I talked to some people on my Discord with some other ideas, and we kind of I tried to make him more like what he's like in World of Warcraft, and just to try to make him a little bit more interesting. But let's see what they did. Surging Fist. Channel time to charge maximum distance is reduced from 4 to 2. That's going to be great for engages. That's going to be great for escapes. Callous Hide trait. Additional functionality. While Ogre Hide is active, Cho gains 15% movement speed. Ogre Hide is the Cho version of this, which is the armor. So it'll be armor and movement speed. Enraged regeneration. Additional functionality. When Gall's Ogre Rage is active, enemy heroes who are hit by Gall's Dread Orb have their healing reduced by 35%. So if he can pop his trait, throw out an orb, he reduces healing, and that's only if you take Enraged Regen. Callous Hide's only if you take that talent as well. Twilight Veil, armor bonus is increased from 100% to 200%. So they're just going to give him a little bit more tankiness, a little bit more play. But again, most of these are underutilized talents. I won't think that this is going to make any major difference in his meta unless they also drastically buff Gall. Joanna. Joanna's been one of the dominant tanks in the meta for a while. And honestly, I don't think that they should nerf Joanna. I think that they should buff the other tanks. That's my opinion, because she feels like what a tank should feel like. Tanky, but can still die. Has utility, but isn't ridiculous. But hey, let's take a look. They reduce her health and health regen to compensate for the lower health. W damage is being reduced. That's going to reduce her ability to wave clear by probably an irrelevant amount. Currently, level 13, you can fully wipe a wave, but level 12, you can't, which means that most likely it'll be level 14 when you can fully wipe a wave. So it will adjust that by just a little bit. Deathwing has been dominating the meta. He's had an incredibly high win rate. It says 55%, but it says 0% popularity for some reason, because I think I went too far on the patch. But Deathwing was sitting at about 68 to 85% win rate, depending on what filters you used. So he definitely needed a nerf. He's getting a health nerf, as well as he is getting a health regen nerf to compensate for that lower health. Incinerate is getting a slight damage nerf. Onslaught's getting a slight damage nerf, and the damage at the end is getting a slight nerf. Periodic damage from his ult is also being reduced. And remember that this is being reduced by just a little bit here, but it's also scales differently because of the different talents you can take with it. So a small change like this could be bigger later. Draconic Might, healing reduced from 40% to 30%, which is going to be pretty huge. That kept him alive during a lot of those fights. Skyfall, the healing amount is being reduced. That was that poking talent. It was a great way to leave your lane at about half health and then join your team in an objective about 3 to 5 seconds later and be ready to fight once again. Burn Beneath My Shadows, bonus damage reduced from 150% to 100%. This combined with this is going to make his ult feel like it does no damage. Elementium Plating, shield amount reduced from 35 to 30% of missing health. Not a huge nerf here. I still think this is going to be the meta talent. I think, honestly, all of this may get him closer to being balanced, but I still think he's going to be a very, very strong hero. A lot of his really dominant talents still haven't been nerfed. Don't get me wrong, I like those dominant talents. I like where they're at, but they haven't been nerfed. He's still going to be very dominant in the meta, and if you're in a draft mode, I would still recommend banning him or try to get him in a first pick. As far as people countering him, his health bar isn't going to be as high, so percent health isn't going to be as scary. His damage is still going to be pretty high, but he will be a little bit easier to kill. That being said, let's move on to Thrall. Rolling Thunder, Q, new functionality, passive, increases the number of Chain Lightning bounces by 1. For 8 seconds after hitting an enemy hero with Chain Lightning, Thrall's next basic attack against them grants him a stack of Frostwolf Resilience. If the target is an enemy hero, then he also deals damage equal to 2% of their maximum health, and healing for that same amount. Whoa, that is a pretty loaded talent right there. That feels like some of that stuff should be connected to a quest, and he shouldn't have it until later. But that's a pretty loaded talent. So what this talent used to do was made it to where you got 1 extra chain, and then whenever you hit minions, you would gain life and mana back. In this case now, it's making it to where, remember that your Q is already going to grant a stack of resilience every time that it hits a target. So by hitting 5 targets, just by pressing Q, you're going to trigger Frostwolf Resilience once. But if you can hit each of the targets, you're going to trigger Frostwolf Resilience twice every time that you use Q. Then he's also going to be doing 2% of max health and healing the same amount. Now, 2% of max health only once is not that big of a deal. But if you're hitting people every time that Q's out, and then you're also hitting all the minions along the way, this could be a pretty big deal. Not to mention 2% is a decent healing, and if you combine all of this with Mana Tide, where you're going to be gaining mana back and cooldown reduction back, plus at level 7, if you combine it with the extra percent health, then you could essentially be doing something like 19% of their health, because you'll likely be able to get 2 Qs off on Ancestral and a few other things. It's interesting, but I don't know. I mean, Echo's still super good for poke. Maybe if you're against someone who's more frontline, wants to take these, I don't know, higher health, maybe they throw a tank in the solo lane. This could be really valuable, where they can never really do enough damage to out-heal all of that healing that you're doing, while also you've got some percent health damage to be a little bit more of a bully. It'll be surprisingly good against Deathwing, but outside of that, I think I still think Echo is going to be really good for poking. So situationally loaded talent, I think Echo's still going to dominate, but I do think this is a very good talent. Varian, Frenzy, no longer increases Varian's attack speed by 15%. Additional functionality increases the damage of Heroic Strike by 25%. Overall, this will be a nerf in damage, but I mean, it might make it a little bit better if people are good at auto-attacking a couple like wall hero, or wall hero, and then or wall hero. Like, you try to hit something where that's safe to hit, and then you switch over to them for crits. You could be a little bit safer and still be doing a decent amount of damage, but overall, it's just going to be mostly a nerf. Yrel, honestly, I just wanted them to fix the bug. The thing is, buffing Yrel is kind of weird because her win rate is low, partly because she still has that bug where you lose half your mana by pressing trade at the wrong time. But hey, let's look at some of these buffs. Dauntless, physical armor duration is increased. That made it to where if you queued and you hit, actually, Dauntless, let me double check what Dauntless was. I haven't played Yrel in a while. So let's take a peek at what talents she had. So Dauntless was casting a basic ability, gives you 50 physical armor for 2 seconds. And now what it's going to do is give it for 2.5. Decent buff to people that would be auto-attacking against you if you get thrown in a lane against an auto-attacker. Pretty good. Holy Avenger, additional functionality. Hitting an enemy hero with Holy Wrath or Avenging Wrath maximum charge also increases its damage by 25%. So what a lot of people don't know, or I mean what everyone should know actually, is her damage build, her DPS build, was actually taking this talent in combination with the Velen's Chosen, so you got 30% extra spell power. Now this is also going to be giving you damage. You don't need to take this talent, or you can take this talent and get, like, you could go more utility and still have essentially the same damage, or you can have way more damage. And so I'm actually kind of surprised that they decided to go that route with this, but that's going to make her E build very, very good for people who can repeatedly land E. Templar's Verdict, damage is being increased from 6% to 7% of maximum health, and that's a talent that you charged up your W, you hit them, it lowered their armor, and did maximum health. Honestly, I mean, it was really good and competitive. Now that the competitive scene's not in there, it's usually better to just go the auto attack talent because it does more damage and safer. And they did just buff the auto attack talent too. Divine Favor cooldown reduction is being increased. Word of Glory, additional functionality, increase the amount that Yrel heals from damage received from 50% to 75%. Range of allied healing is increased. This is a really good buff to a talent that most people were just going the Unstoppable. Overall, this isn't just buffing her underutilized talents, this is also buffing some of her utilized talents. So if they would just fix that bug, and maybe it is fixed, maybe it just gets fixed by all of these changes because of some of the spaghetti code, then she's going to be pretty dominant in the meta. These are some huge changes. I mean, just the E changes alone is going to make that build do so much damage or have so much utility. But yeah, overall, pretty strong. Let's take a peek at Yrel. I've thought Yrel's been a pretty good space since they've changed like how she gains her energy. But they are looking at Resurrect. Resurrect's hero's health is increased from 50 to 100%. Delay before resurrection is reduced from 5 to 3. And additional functionality, Yrel can now see her own ghost. If she presses R while dead, she can cast Resurrect on herself. That is interesting. So if you take Resurrect, you essentially have prevented yourself from being dove onto. And then if you're running a hypercarry comp, your Tassadar is going to keep your hypercarry survived from burst, or at least alive from burst, and then you can't die to burst, and Tassadar or Zarya, whoever your shielder is, can't die from burst either, making you guys immune to sustained damage and burst. The only way you guys lose is a wombo combo. This could make Resurrect useful in very niche situations, but honestly, this alone and this alone could make it good enough for people in lower ranks that don't really know how to use her other ult correctly and keep screwing up their team's combos and stuff. This may make this just a I guess less stress pick. So overall, that's I think this will actually change the meta a little bit. I know people say all the time, oh, you'll need to do a million things to Resurrect to make it meta, but it's like, this could be enough. So I'm interested to see what this actually does. I am optimistic about this change. Brightwing, greater polymorph, adjusted functionality, increases polymorph's range by 30% if Brightwing hits an enemy hero with Arcane Flare's center within 2 seconds of being polymorphed, and reduce polymorph's cooldown by 7 seconds and grant 50 mana. Didn't that kind of do something like that? Instead of requiring her to hit the polymorph target, she just has to hit him after they were... Okay, so if they were polymorphed or of 2 seconds after being polymorphed. So they, and then they gave a better bonus to it. Yeah, all right, cool. Uther, health is being reduced. Health regen is being reduced. Bulwark of Light, new functionality. Divine Shield is also applied to an ally hero with the lowest health near its initial target, and duration's increased. That's pretty cool. 2 D shields is insane. 2 long duration D shields is insane. This is really a contender against against Redemption. Divine Hurricane cooldown reduction increase from 20 to 40 seconds. Again, it's gonna make it a 40-second cooldown, so that's a pretty good one as well. And Divine Protection trait, new functionality, increases Devotion's armor to 40 in its duration by 0.5 seconds. If you're running him as a enabler to make certain comps work, this could be very beneficial. I know in the past 40 armor was all it took to pretty much make anyone a main tank. When we saw Octalysis run Zul and we saw them run Diva and all these other weird main tanks, it was because Yrel was giving them armor. But as being a level 20 talent, you should never really run a comp based off of level 20 talent. So overall, this won't change the meta. This likely won't change the meta. This would be probably a contender against Redemption for sure. And then this isn't going to change him from being used as a solo laner or a main tank. It might make him bursted more. I mean, as a main tank, I think what people don't get is Uther still dies super fast. The reason that people don't mind still letting a main tank is because he can still heal while dead. So if it's a fight like Volskaya where he dies instantly, but you still get healing for a huge amount of healing and armor for a decent amount, you can still likely win the objective. People just need to learn how to play against main tank Uther rather than these nerfs, or they need to address it by increasing his healing significantly so he can main heal. And then maybe nerfing down his health. Like, if you're going to nerf his health, increase his healing, in my opinion. Melee Assassins. Illidan. Health is being increased. Health regen is being increased. And Fiery Brand damage is being increased. Yeah, this is pretty yikes. So, if you guys don't know the history of Illidan, small buffs make him unkillable. Small nerfs make him unplayable. So, this is where we're just being a little weird about this, but he's a tricky hero to balance, and I thought he was in an okay spot, but okay, we'll see. Samuro, I've actually thought was the strongest hero in the game after they made the experience changes. He's just one of the hardest to play. Let's look at what they've done to him. They've reduced his basic attack damage. They've reduced the cooldown of his mirror image. Duration is also being reduced. Images now have their duration increased by 1 second for each time they or Samuro basic attacks against an enemy hero. Mirror image's basic attack damage is increased. Windwalk, additional functionality. Samuro is healed for 1% of maximum health every second that he's in Windwalk. So for people that are not doing like crazy transmissions to gain a bunch of health, which if you want to know how to do that, you press your Q, then you press back, and then you do shift, and then D on one of your clones. Then you will back, and right as you back, before the clone backs or disappears, you will swap locations with it, gaining the life from that instant back, as well as returning to lane instantly. They're making it to where people who are not great with that can still heal a decent amount, and it's going to make him, for those who are good at that, it's actually a little bit better because this cooldown is being reduced. Not just that, but you can, a lot of them would stealth in, deal damage, clone, W, and then they would walk away, and then they would back, and then they would swap back into one of their clones that was in fight. And that's how the rotation of combat worked with those. So this seems like a buff for those who were good at that, and a buff for those who weren't. Level 1, Way of the Blades. Physical armor reduction reduced from 10 to 5, but it stacks 3 times. So those who attack multiple times will have it being better. Those who just went in and did a quick burst will see that it is a little bit worse. Additional functionality, mirror images now apply the stack as well. Way of the Wind no longer grants, I mean, so people that are decent at this could just clone W and you've got the same amount, but that's okay. No longer grants cooldown reduction for Windwalk when attacking enemy heroes. Additional functionality, casting Windwalk heals Samuro for 5% of his max health. So a little bit burstier on the heals. Burning Blade fixed an issue. That's okay. Phantom Blade, that was the meta talent, now being reduced. Additional functionality now reduces the cooldown of image transmission by 10% while when he crits. Overall a nerf. And these talents were so close to each other that that if this was nerfed without this talent being changed, it would have just shifted to be this talent. No longer gives 2 charges. Cooldowns reductions increase additional functionality. Critical strikes against heroes increase your basic attack damage by this stacking 3 times. Yeah, this is going to be picked instead of this. I mean, you're already losing burst and gaining sustainability from these talents, so you're likely going to switch to a more sustain. And it's not even that much of a sustain. All of this will trigger in a matter of probably I mean, if you time out your crits correctly, where you get a crit, you stealth, or you set up a crit, you stealth, you go in, you crit, you press W, you crit again. You're already at 2 stacks. That's 30% increased damage, which is already right next to this. Honestly, this is gonna be the new talent. Blade Storm. This was an interesting change. I actually got messaged about this morning before I really got out of bed. And cooldown reduction cooldown's being reduced down to 25 seconds. The damage is being reduced by about a third, and the duration is being reduced by about a fourth. And then you're no longer unstoppable, but you get armor. So a lot of people trashed on Bladestorm before because it was just so slow. You could be killed during it, and the other talents were just better. It was actually kind of an interesting talent because it did a lot of damage over the duration. So a lot of times, I can't tell you how many times I used to just stealth in, throw some clones out, do a couple auto attacks, and then ult them at about half health, and it was just a guaranteed kill onto someone like an Ana. But this is interesting, honestly. This could give a completely different play style. Now, and especially with the new globe system the way that they are, because your clones can pick up globes, so you can honestly just throw globes in a lane, or send your clones into lanes, then just go stealth, and then immediately go into a lane, auto attack W, and then Blade Storm, do some damage, and then walk away. Maybe even transmit to one of those clones, get a little bit of healing, clone again, grab that soak, use your E to gain your life back as you head back to another lane, and then do that. So it actually adds a lot of extra functionality, but we need to see what the upgrade to this level 20 is to see if this is actually relevant, because it's cool and it'll do a decent amount of damage, but is this good enough? Illusion Master, cooldowns reduced from 10 to 8. Mirrored Steel, cooldown reduction reduced from 1 to 0.75. And if we were to pull up that talent, I actually don't remember what that talent is. So we're gonna go Samuro talents. Pick that up, and we're going to read these other ones while we're there. Death of Dance. Damage increased from 25 to 30%. Additional functionality. If you hit a hero at least 25 times with Blade Storm, then reset its cooldown. This is cool. Wait. Do you still get the triple... Hold on. I need to look at something really quick. He's a melee assassin, right? Mirror images use Blade Storm, but it does 30% damage. If Samura hits at least 25, reset the cooldown. That seems cool. That seems really cool. Okay, we'll see. Mirror images duration is increased, so again, you can still do all the same shenanigans that you did before. Oh, it's reduced. 36 to 16. So you can't do all the same shenanigans that you can do before, but your Q's lower. So man, I don't know. Yeah, you're going to be able to split push a lot less after 20, but overall, I think for the most part, things should be relatively easier. I guess you can't split push too much because they did reduce the duration of clones to 8 seconds. Yeah, not a lot of split push, but maybe more damage. I don't know. This is a lot of changes. We're going to have to see how this one plays out. On to the next one. Gall. I mentioned they need to really buff him or else this isn't going to affect the meta. Keep moving. Additional functionality increases the movement speed bonus of Shove. Additional functionality increases the number of basic attacks required to kill Eye of Kilrug by 1, so it goes from 2 to 3. Edge of Madness, bonus damage increased from 8 to 12% per stack, so you do more damage the more you land Qs. Twilight Nova, initial functionality reduces the cooldown of Dread Orb by 1 second. Leaden Orb, stun duration. None of this is going to be enough to make him meta. It's going to make him a little bit better, but it's not going to make him meta. So overall, this isn't going to change too much. Greymane. Centenary Elixir, adjusted functionality, reduces the cooldown of Gilnane Cocktail by 2 seconds. Upon quest completion, reduces the cooldown of it by additional 2 seconds. So you get to check more grenades or cocktails. Level 20, Unleashed, R1. New functionality increases the damage of Go for the Throat by 25%. If Go for the Throat kills an enemy, reset the cooldown of all of Greymane's abilities. He's going to be a full reset champ once you hit 20. Is this going to be enough to get you to go take anything but blunderbuss? I don't know, though. Unless you're running a secondary reset where your whole team's going to combine with you, combo with you to get at least 1 kill, then I don't think this is going to be picked. Gilnean Roulette. New functionality reduces the cooldown of Cursed Bullet by 20 seconds and its damage by 30% of the enemy's current health. That is a finisher now, and a 30% finisher. That is Malthael's ult on an instant, while also reducing the cooldown. That's way better than Pierce. That is incredibly busted. Super good. Tooth and Claw, additional functionality increases the damage of Razor Swipe by 100%. Yeah, no, after reading this is just, no. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So I like that. Nazebo, Thing in the Deep. Spell power bonus reduced by 10% for 5% per completion. Yeah, that's just necessary. This talent was usually... You used to have to take a trade-off of utility for damage. You'd lose the damage talents, you take some utility, and you go from there. It doesn't have that anymore. Zagara, Jagged Blades, damage is being increased. Still won't be enough to take over that percent health talent that was there. Bug fixes, yeah, I mean... Casting Zeal no longer interrupts channeled effects. I thought I was going crazy because this did this to me like 13 times and then it didn't do it to me once. And I was like, am I just doing something wrong? But no, it does do that. That's good. All right, let's go into the, quickly, we're just going to go into some of the new content that was added when we go in here. Let's talk a little bit about some of these new things. So let's go into the new skins. It brought back some of the old skins while also bringing some new color variations to some of the old skins. We have new skins for... we have green army skins for people like Varian, Deckard, Pain, and Army Rainer, and you can see that it is the Deckard Pain, not Deckard Kane. We also have a pretty slick skin for Kira. It looks really cool. It does have themed abilities and an altered voiceover. You can try those out in-game by clicking the try mode. I'm not going to go through and show all of these because I'd have to go through all the loading screens, and I don't want to do that. I also don't want to edit. Mephisto, we have, again, themed abilities and altered voiceover. So we have a Tickle Me Fisto skin, and he is going to go down to 1,200 shards by next winter, but you can pick him up right now at 1,800. Kira will go down to 1,600 shards, but you can pick her up right now at 2,400. Then, as far as mounts go, they are bringing back the Galactic Lion as well as the other color variations of that mount. They're bringing back the Unicorns, which is honestly just the most adorable mount. Then they are bringing out a Mellow Snowflake, which is a yellow snowflake at 15,000 gold, as well as the other snowflakes. A toy train, which is a train that your allies can right-click and join you on this mount. This really won't have any major benefit to this mount other than it's just kind of fun. So we'll probably see a lot of people with toy trains because it's only 1,600 shards and it's a lot of fun. They're bringing back all of the other holiday mounts as well, or at least a good chunk of them. So overall, that is there. There's also new banners, sprays, and then we have the usual other stuff. There will be new emotes that you can collect along the way, which I've already mentioned in the special event. And that should be all of the content that is here today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Y'all have fun in there. I think it's a pretty good patch. Let me know what part of it you think is going to be the biggest change. I sure hope that the Deathwing changes are enough to get him like this far out of the meta, but either way, thank you guys so much for watching and feel free to check out my other videos.